And we are live for Thursday night football. It is week 3. We're going to try to keep our internet going tonight. Unlike last Thursday night, we got a banger of a football game tonight. The San Francisco 49ers playing against the New York Football Giants. This game's at home for the 49ers. They are whopping 10.5-point favorites, and it's going to be a fun one, guys. The Giants have looked atrocious this season. Should really be 0-2, just barely coming back. A really big comeback for the Giants against the Arizona Cardinals last week. The Giants might have a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. I would argue that they definitely have a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Let's go. It is week 3. How do we feel about Daniel Jones tonight? Yeah, I'm really interested to see what we get out of Daniel Jones tonight with no Saquon Barkley. There's no Saquon Barkley, and there's no Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka, tonight. He's off to a good start this season. He had a great week 1, but you got to bench him tonight. He is going to be out. So how are we feeling about Daniel Jones? I think both quarterbacks tonight have some merit to be started in a lot of situations in fantasy leagues, and we got them projected super, super close in the WalterPicks app. By the way, as always, best way you can support me, check out the WalterPicks app, free to download in the description, in the TikTok bio, on the iOS and Android app stores. If you guys haven't checked out the new Start Sit comparison screen, guys, check this out. We have the boom bust graphs now in this Start Sit comparison. Really interesting to look at for the Start Sit decisions you have. Tonight, we got Daniel Jones, a 27% chance to bust. That means he goes under 10 points. Brock Purdy, only 22%. So Purdy's the safer play. But Daniel Jones does have the higher ceiling. A lot of that, I think, has to do with his rushing. And he has been doing pretty well on the ground. But yeah, this is a much better matchup for Brock Purdy than it is Daniel Jones, but also much different game scripts to expect for these two different offenses tonight. The San Francisco 49ers are 10.5-point favorites tonight. That means we should see a lot of running from the 49ers. And I don't know how much running realistically we're going to see from Gary Brightwell and from Matt Breida tonight. I think both those guys need to be on your bench as far down as it goes. And honestly, they'll both be sent back to waivers super soon. I am really intrigued, though, how much more rushing do we see than usual from Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones is crushing Brock Purdy in terms of fantasy stats this year, 19.1 points per game versus 15.8. And then we go down to the rushing stats, and you can see why. Guys, Daniel Jones leads the NFL, all quarterbacks, in carries per game. Among quarterbacks, 11 carries per game, 51 rushing yards per game. He's scoring half a rushing touchdown per game. Brock Purdy, I guess, is doing that as well. But yeah, overall, we've seen pretty good fantasy numbers from Daniel Jones last week. It was an abysmal game, obviously, that first game against the Cowboys. I'm expecting another pretty brutal night just for the Giants in general. I like Brock Purdy more than Daniel Jones in fantasy tonight, and I will rip off just all the quarterbacks that I would start over both of them. But I think both guys are probably top 12 options in fantasy this week. Yarjma, how we doing? How we doing, everyone in the TikTok live? It's Thursday night. We got a great football game coming. We're also live on YouTube. The YouTube live is a little bit better reviewing experience. It is. I can share my screen. I got the game logs. I just had the game logs for Daniel Jones up on the screen as I was talking through them. Come to the YouTube live. Links right in the TikTok bio if you're watching live on TikTok. I will try to get to comments from both. So first, let's just go through the guys you absolutely need to be starting tonight. Christian McCaffrey, I will talk about him in just a second, but obviously everyone's starting him. Deebo Samuel, there's no Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka, tonight. And guys, look, let me pull this back up on the screen on the YouTube live. Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka, he's out tonight. And Deebo Samuel's coming off one of his better usage games of the season. I think it was a 38% target share for Deebo, if I'm remembering correctly. Deebo Samuel, and I think I was. Yep, I was remembering correctly. Deebo Samuel, solid 25% target share in week 1, 38% target share from Deebo Samuel in week 2, and he produced 22 fantasy points. I believe he scored a rushing touchdown. Yeah, he did. He had 5 carries last week for 38 yards and a touchdown. No carries for Elijah Mitchell last week, but I do expect that to change tonight, especially with such a dominant game expected from the 49ers against a really, really, really bad Giants defense. But yeah, you got to start Deebo Samuel tonight 100%. The other two guys you absolutely need to be starting, let me pull those guys up on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm telling you, the live stream viewing experience, it is better on YouTube. Your comments more likely to get pulled up, and I can share my screen to a lot of what I'm talking about. Like I'm about to pull up a start sit comparison between Waller and Kittle. if you come for free in the YouTube Live, 2 clicks away in my TikTok bio, you can see this comparison. I would start George Kittle over Darren Waller. If you're looking for the big boom game, you got to go with George Kittle. I know that he has struggled this season. 5 points in week 1, only 6 points in week 2, only 3 targets last week. Doesn't have a game with more than 30 receiving yards yet this season. But with no Brandon Ayuk, you got to think George Kittle gets more involved. There's one mouth less to feed in this offense. And the Giants defense, guys, has not been good. The Giants against tight ends this season, they let up 56 yards. They've let up a total of 88 yards last week to Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. Not great for the Giants defense overall last week. I do feel pretty good about the boom likelihood of Kittle tonight. Walter's given him a 10% chance to boom. That means over 25 points. Very, very rare for a tight end to go over 25 points. Meanwhile, Darren Waller, a little less of a boom chance here, but I think the floor is good enough. You pretty much have to start Waller in all situations. The only tight ends I'm starting over either of these guys, obviously starting Kelsey. I think Andrews honestly should be started ahead of Kittle also. Walter's not agreeing with me on that one. I think Andrews should be started ahead of Kittle, start ahead of Waller. And then Hawkinson and Goddard, I'd probably start those 2 guys ahead of Kittle and Waller also. But then it's Kittle and then it's Waller. I think they're top 6 options this week. So yeah, you got to start both those guys in almost all situations. And if you have both, I would honestly consider trading one of them. You don't need both. And don't start 2 tight ends. Why bench Purdy? Yes, I'm not saying bench Purdy. I think he's a fringe start. Let me rip through the quarterbacks that I would start over Brock Purdy. I have a list here. The guys that I would start over Brock Purdy and the guys that I would start over Daniel Jones. I do like Brock Purdy just a little bit more than Daniel Jones tonight, given the matchups. But Daniel Jones, his ceiling is pretty intriguing with how much he might rush. All right, here's the QBs I would play over Purdy and Daniel Jones tonight. Obviously, you're starting Mahomes over him, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Those 3 should be obvious. Then Tua and Kirk Cousins and Justin Herbert, I think, and Lamar Jackson. All those guys should be obvious too. So you're starting Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Tua, Kirk, and Herbert, and Lamar, all over both quarterbacks playing tonight. I hope that's obvious to you, but if it's not, definitely start those guys over Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones. And then the last 2 that I would start over Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones is Jared Goff and Russell Wilson this week. I do like the matchup for both of those guys enough to start them over Purdy and over Daniel Jones tonight. Russell Wilson, low key. Let me pull up a comparison of those 2 guys really quickly. But low key, Russell Wilson, kind of having a good fantasy season. I know that the Broncos are 0-2, but Russell Wilson is, let me pull it up here in the comparison between Russ and let's do Brock Purdy here. Russell Wilson, if I pull up his game logs, coming off a 27-point fantasy day last week, he had 15 points in week 1, 27 points in week 2. He had 308 yards. He has 5 touchdowns this season. And now he gets the Dolphins in what easily could be a shootout game. I do not think the Broncos defense is going to stop Tua this week. So yeah, I like Russ more than both the quarterbacks tonight. But yeah, in general, I do think that Brock Purdy, he's a fringe start. He's not a must bench. He's not a must bench. I have him in the must bench and the fringe starts. I'm sorry. I meant to move him from must bench to fringe starts. I'm seeing all the comments on TikTok. That makes a lot more sense to me now. But yeah, he's a fringe start, not a must bench. I think he's a top 12 option. And here's the quarterbacks I would play over Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones this week. Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Tua, Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, and Russell Wilson. All right, let's talk a little bit about this game. First of all, I'm taking the 49ers minus 10.5. I do not see the Giants competing in this game against a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Giants almost lost to what I think is the worst team in the NFL last week. I think the Giants have a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. I'm really nervous about what this offense is going to be able to do against the 49ers defense overall. Jake Moody, we can start him. Not Thursday Night Football, but thoughts on Kareem Hunt and Cam Akers with Vikings. Was able to get both. Yeah, Yajma, I'm honestly a little bit more excited about Kareem Hunt. Actually, a lot bit more excited, I'd say, about Kareem Hunt than I am Cam Akers. But realistically, both these guys are not going to slide into starting roles very soon. They're going to have to beat out the current starters. They are not the current starters. I don't think they're going to become the current starters super fast. I am interested, obviously, to see what the roles look like. Definitely, there's a wide range of outcomes for both guys. But personally, I think Cam Akers he might struggle just to get on the field. I think he's fighting more so for a roster spot than to overtake Alexander Madison. He got traded for basically nothing. It was almost like the Rams had to pay just to get him off the team. So yeah, I'm not super excited about Cam Akers from what we've seen from him so far this season. Kareem Hunt, on the other hand, is a little bit more of an unknown, but him too, I just don't see him getting this huge workload. I'd say best case for him is probably a role like he was in last season, but maybe he can get the goal line work and maybe he can get a lot of the targets too in that backfield. So I think there's more of a path for value for him. Start Purdy, Stafford, or Burrow. You cannot be trusting Burrow this week. There's a really good chance Burrow doesn't play. Actually, in the WalterPicks app right now, we are projecting Burrow not to play. That's why T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are so low in the rankings. When it comes to Stafford versus Purdy, yeah, I'm going Purdy over Stafford this week. Start Brees or MT. Why bench Breida? Breida's over-under rushing tonight is 30.5 yards. He's going to be splitting time with Gary Brightwell behind a bad Giants offensive line. Yeah, guys. Let me come right back. I gotta delete on the TikTok live. I'll be right back. I gotta delete Brock Purdy from the must bench. He's a fringe start. Let's get this fixed. I had Brock Purdy in 2 sections on the TikTok live, and people are very confused, understandably. All right, let's do this quick, and then I'll get back to some of these start sits. All right, we should be good now. All right, that should clear things up for the TikTok people. But yeah, I'm starting Purdy over Stafford. Dak or Russ, 1 QB. Yeah, I like Russ more than Dak, I think, this week. Waller or Hunter Henry. Yeah, Hunter Henry's been on a tear. He was my most drafted tight end in best ball, so I'm very much rooting for Hunter Henry. And honestly, I think he's already paid off at his round 18 best ball cost that I was getting him at all offseason. But you got to be starting Darren Waller for Hunter Henry, and you got to be starting George Kittle over Hunter Henry too. We starting Danny Dimes or Sam Howell this week? You got to start Danny Dimes. I think you go Danny Dimes over Sam Howell. What's up, Sam? Hope you had a great week. Don't have a Thursday night start sit, and I know you prefer to save the Sunday start sits for the Sunday live. Thanks, Kyle. But would love to hear the player prop of the day. Kylo, we've been off to a pretty good start yet again this year with the free prop picks. And I got to be honest with you. This is a little bit of a tough night, I think, to pick player props. This game, it could be ugly. We could see this game over early. I think this game could be over in the third quarter. The 49ers are 10.5-point favorites. There's no Saquon Barkley. I feel gross about the Giants running backs, but their lines are pretty low, so I don't really love the unders for them. But I'm not touching the overs for Matt Breida or Gary Brightwell either, because they realistically both could get close to 0 rushing yards. The lines for the 49ers receivers have gone up so high because Brandon Ayuk, the bazooka, is out. So yeah, I'm really playing less of a math play tonight, but more of a coach speak and expectations of this game tonight play. I'm going with Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rushing yards as the free player prop tonight. As always, guys, sleeper is the best place to play Pick'em. That's where I'm playing Pick'em this year. Use code Walter and you'll get a free 100% deposit match if you're depositing for the first time. We're 3-1 on the free player props. I'm going Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rushing yards tonight. He had 0 carries last week. I don't even think he had a snap last week if we pull up the game logs. But after the game, we heard comments right from Shanahan himself that that's not what they want to be the case moving forward. They don't want a CMC to be getting. Yeah, he had 0 touches, 0 snaps, 0 playing time for Elijah Mitchell. But I'm trusting what the coach said after the game, that they don't want CMC to get 100% of the snaps every single week. And what better game to implement that than a game where you are going to destroy the New York Giants? I think Elijah Mitchell can cash this in as little as 5 carries against the Giants defense. Yeah, CMC played 95% of the snaps last week. I think the only snaps he didn't play, Deebo Samuel was getting the carries. But yeah, I do like, so let me post up on screen. I do like Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rushing yards tonight. Walter does not agree with me on this one. I think he has him projected around 25 rushing yards, but he also, he didn't get a snap last week. But when you look at how the Giants have done against running backs, they led up 106 rushing yards to James Conner last week behind a brutal Cardinals offensive line. Tony Pollard was relatively efficient. He rushed for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Giants in week 1. So yeah, I like Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rush yards tonight. That is the free player prop of the day. All right, let's get to some more of these questions. We don't need to spam. No spamming necessary in the YouTube live. Kyren or Waddle? Yeah, you're not benching Kyren Williams this week. But I will get to your question, Sean. Pitts or Laporta? Not a Thursday night question, but I am playing. I'm playing Pitts this week. I think in my players I refuse to bench this week video on TikTok this week, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be in there. I think Laporta is ranked much higher in the WalterPicks app, though, which does make sense. Need a tight end because I traded away Hawkinson. Got any suggestions in a 12-man league? Yeah, let's take a look at the tight end rankings this week. Hunter Henry, if he's still available, he probably isn't, but he's definitely a good option. He is number one among tight ends in points per game this year, and I think actually by a decent margin. Definitely Dalton Kincaid is in the cards this week, too. There's no Dawson Knox practicing today. There's a chance Dawson Knox doesn't play this week, and I think that is a huge boost to Dalton Kincaid. Cole Kmet, too. I'd look for him. Zach Ertz, if he's available, he's, I think, leading. Zach Ertz, I think, is leading all tight ends in target share, maybe even targets also. Guys, look at these target shares for Zach Ertz. He's been running around on almost every drop back, a 33% target share in week 1, a 28% target share in week 2. I mean, crazy usage we've seen from Zach Ertz. I also got CMC, would have gave Andrews, Puka, Connors, Godwin for CMC and Laporta. I almost got CMC. Oh, I wish you did. I really wish you did. Who do you like to score TD if you had to pick? Yeah, I was going to say, Kyle, I actually like Elijah Mitchell to score a touchdown also. I think the odds there, I think I saw it was like 4-1. Pretty solid, in my opinion, against the Giants as a 10.5-point favorites. Elijah Mitchell rushing yards and touchdowns tonight. I like a decent amount. Daniel Jones or Jordan Love this week, bro? Yeah, so Jordan Love has quietly been okay to start the season. He's got back-to-back games with, was it 3 touchdowns, I think? Does he have 6 touchdowns this season? If I'm looking at that correctly. I definitely would play Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy, though, over Jordan Love. Let me scroll down here to find Jordan Love. Oh, man, he's at QB 30. That's pretty low for him. The Saints have been really good, though, against quarterbacks. The Saints have been the 4th best defense against quarterbacks this season. They did play Bryce Young, so that context should probably be taken into account. 49ers have been good, too. But yeah, definitely a higher ceiling for Daniel Jones. And I'd argue a better floor too. And yeah, Walter agrees with me on both those fronts. 11 points feels low for a projection for Jordan Love. But yeah, I still like Daniel Jones over Jordan Love tonight. Cook or Breida in a 32-team league PPR. Yeah, if that's Dalvin Cook or James Cook, I assume it's Dalvin Cook. I think I would play Dalvin Cook over Breida. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's Breida over Dalvin Cook. I don't feel good about Dalvin Cook at all. I'd probably play Breida over Dalvin Cook. But yeah, in most spots, you got to be benching Matt Breida tonight, guys. The 49ers are going to destroy the Giants tonight. I'm taking the 49ers minus 10.5. I am under 50% against the spread this year, so we'll call that out. Here's the quarterbacks that I'm playing over Brock Purdy and over Daniel Jones tonight. I'm playing Patrick Mahomes over him, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Tua, and Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, Lamar. I think those first 7, honestly, they should hopefully be pretty obvious. Definitely start those 7 over Purdy and Daniel Jones. The last 2 I'm starting over Purdy and Daniel Jones is Jared Goff and Russell Wilson. Then I would play Purdy, and then I would play Daniel Jones. I do like Purdy more than Daniel Jones tonight. The other interesting stat line that I'm going to bring up tonight, because Christian McCaffrey is playing tonight, and so we all get to enjoy watching Christian McCaffrey on our TV screen tonight. He has not had back-to-back games under 100 total yards since 2018. Got CMC, looking back on it, he probably should have been the first overall pick in fantasy football again this year. I was in that camp last year. I got swayed by the masses this year to go Justin Jefferson at 1. I did have CMC at 2 after the Joe Burrow calf injury. Before the Joe Burrow calf injury, I had Jamar Chase over CMC in drafts as well. But yeah, guys, Christian McCaffrey, he doesn't have back-to-back bad games. He hasn't had a bad game yet this season. I do worry a little bit about how much he's going to get used tonight if the game isn't close. They're 10.5-point favorites tonight. But obviously, yeah, you got to start Christian McCaffrey with a tremendous amount of confidence every single week. You got to start George Kittle over Dalton Kincaid. I'm excited about Kincaid this week. There's a good chance that Dawson Knox doesn't play, but you got to start Kittle, I think. Kittle over Ertz for me, too. I'm playing Kittle over most tight ends. And for me, Brandon Ayuk being out, it is a pretty big deal for George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. There's usually 4 studs in this offense that command a lot of targets, and now there's only 3. That's kind of a big deal. I don't think that Juwan Johnson's going to command the target share that Brandon Ayuk usually does. Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, or Jordan Love. Yeah, it's Russ. It's got to be Russ. Joe Burrow might not play. I'm not starting Jordan Love this week against the Saints. Kittle or Kmet? Yeah, got to go Kittle. You got to go Kittle over Kmet. Sit 1. Adams, Olave, Deebo, and Puka. Oh, my God. This one's pretty tough. I'm not going to lie. I want to compare Olave and Debo because I really don't think you can bench Adams. I really don't want to bench Puka right now either. Let me pull this up. This is a good decision to have to make, though. Obviously, these are good options. Let's pull up Olave versus Debo Samuel. Wow, they're super close here. Olave's got a 2% boom percentage, and Debo's got a little bit better of a chance of a big game. Definitely a better matchup for Debo. Yeah, it is. Green Bay's been pretty good, but Green Bay's also played the Falcons and the Bears. Two of the worst passing offenses in the league, I would argue. Definitely skewing their ranking against receivers here a little bit. But yeah, I kind of honestly think I would go Debo. I think the median projection for Olave will look better. But with no Ayuk tonight, I'm okay going with Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel had a 38% target share last game. Olave's looked great. Definitely a worse matchup, though, for Olave than for Debo Samuel. Jordan Addison or DJ Moore. I want every pieces that I can get of this Vikings-Chargers game this week. Stroud or Pickett if Richardson is ruled out. I don't think Richardson's going to play this week. I would not play Kenny Pickett, though. I would play CJ Stroud. Fields or Brock Purdy? Yeah, this one's tough, man. I was thinking about this one before the stream, and this is not one of the quarterbacks I'm willing to play over Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones. I'm playing I'm playing Brock Purdy over Justin Fields. Better matchup for Purdy by a long shot. The Chiefs' defense has looked good, and obviously Fields and the Bears have looked not so good. The rushing is why this is a hard decision because Fields will run obviously a lot more than Brock Purdy will. But yeah, I still like Purdy more than Fields. Guys, we're just getting started. We're going to talk all about the Thursday night game. I'm going to get to all the Thursday start sits I can get to and even some beyond that. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube. Seriously, helps me out way more than you realize. If you're watching live on TikTok, make sure you smash the follow button. The best way, guys, you could possibly support me is by downloading the WalterPicks app, which I have on screen right now on the YouTube Live. Also, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm telling you, the YouTube Live experience, it is better. It's a better viewing experience. Link is right in the TikTok bio. I can share my screen on YouTube, and I just cannot do that on TikTok. Also, guys, I wanted to show you the new player prop evaluator. If you guys haven't seen it yet, this thing is awesome. Let me pull up McCaffrey. You can see here his rushing and receiving line. We can compare CMC's rushing and receiving line to what he's done in his past 10 games. He's smashed this line. I said at 113.5 total yards for CMC. He smashed this line each of the first 2 weeks. I think he'll probably crush this line tonight as well. And it's probably the best matchup he's had all season. Maybe the Steelers are a better matchup. I don't think the Rams are a better matchup than the Giants for CMC. And you can see the value here is based on what Walter's projection of what the odds should be based on his projection for CMC, which I think is around 130 total yards tonight. Very cool new tool in the WalterPicks app. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, definitely check it out. All right, James Cook or Josh Kelly. We don't know if Austin Eckler's playing yet. If Austin Eckler doesn't play, it's Josh Kelly. But we got to focus on the Thursday night start sits here. Let me pull this up again for the people in the back. CMC, this is a true stat. You guys can go fact check me. CMC has not had back-to-back games under 100 total yards since 2018. All right, let's get to some of the start sit questions now. Do I play Jennings now that Ayuk is out? No, I don't want Juwan Jennings in my lineup. Even though Ayuk is out, I don't think Juwan Jennings is someone you can trust at all. Not a Thursday night question, Jahan Dotson or Sky Moore, though. I know there's a lot of Chiefs wide receiver injuries. I'm just really not that interested in Sky Moore after his first 2 games. I think he has 6 targets, maybe less than that through 2 games. Let me pull up the Sky Moore game logs, but I don't know how you could be feeling great about Sky Moore. I know he had a touchdown last week and he had 1 big catch. But guys, through 2 weeks, Sky Moore has 3 catches. I'm not starting him. I'm not starting him. Like, he's played too. He's playing. The other thing too is snap percentage went down last week. I get the snap percentage going up this week, assuming those guys, Kadarius Toney and Richie James, are out. Neither of those guys practice this week, but man, yeah, I'm pretty nervous. My boy Sam, CMC to the moon tonight. Hope your week is going good. Thanks, man. Xavier, I hope your week is going well also. Traded away Evans and White for AJ Brown. Thoughts? Should I start him over Debo? Yeah, I love this trade. Let me pull up this trade in the WalterPicks app because I'm interested to see what the trade analyzer says here. Assuming this is a PPR league. I also just want to show off the new design in the WalterPicks trade analyzer. But I personally like this trade a lot. I have a feeling this one that might actually be kind of close in the trade analyzer, which I think is going to value Rachaad White like relatively high. And let's pull up AJ Brown now. and look at this one. And yeah, this is a pretty fair trade overall. I definitely agree, though, with my original statement that I like this trade for you. I think it's a fair trade. I see why it got accepted. Mike Evans obviously has been balling. He's had a better fantasy season so far than A.J. Brown, but man, I do not expect that to continue. A.J. Brown is going to get some massive games coming. He's scored no touchdowns yet. He had 171 air yards in week 1, 33% target share. Not many receivers can reach those type of numbers. I don't even know if Mike Evans has reached those type of numbers yet this season. I mean, over 100, he kind of has, honestly. 31% target share, 120 air yards week 1. He's been balling too. But yeah, I definitely like A.J. Brown a decent amount more. I think it was a fair trade, and I like it. And I don't – starting him over Debo is definitely a tougher one. They play the Bucs. They play each other, I guess. That is the Bucs, Mike Evans, and A.J. Brown. Let's do that comparison too, because I think that one's pretty close. A.J. Brown versus Debo Samuel. My gut says A.J. Brown over Debo Samuel, though. And yeah, that is the case. I think you got to play A.J. Brown over Debo. Let me find Debo here. Yeah, A.J. Brown's projected more. I think he's got a bigger boom percentage too. Yeah, he does. You got to play A.J. Brown every single week. I really don't think there's weeks to not play A.J. Brown. I think he's got to be in a starting lineup basically every single week. Zay Flowers or Mike Williams or Nico Collins. Yeah, we're not benching Mike Williams. Why is Purdy a fringe start? Would you start? Let me scroll back up to this one in the TikTok live. Would you start him over Carr? Yeah, I would start him over Carr. He's a fringe start just because I think there's 8 quarterbacks I would start over him. So to me, he's not a must start when there's 8 guys. That means like most teams in a 12-team league probably aren't starting Brock Purdy, but he's a fringe start because probably 5 teams, I would probably argue, should be starting Brock Purdy in a 12-team league this week, depending on the option. So yeah, I'm starting Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Tua, Kirk, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Jared Goff, and Russ, all over Purdy and Daniel Jones. Then I'm playing Purdy over Daniel Jones, and then I'm playing Daniel Jones. So no, I'm not starting. I forget the quarterback you even had in there. I don't think it was one of those. I'm not starting Justin Fields over. Let me pull up the list here. I'm not going to start Justin Fields over Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones. I'm not starting Deshaun Watson over Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not starting over Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones. Geno Smith, Dak Prescott. I'm not starting any of those guys over Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones this week. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, guys, if you haven't yet. Really do appreciate that. Sit 1, DK, Nico, Olave, Mark. Not a Thursday night question, but you're benching Nico Collins here. As good as he's been, I think you bench Nico. I would not bench Olave in that. And I know some people are worried about the DK injury, but he played through it last week. I'm starting DK over Nico. Purdy or Goff, PPR. Yep, Goff is one of the QBs I think I'm okay playing over Brock Purdy. Let's look at that one in the WalterPicks app too and see what Walter's saying about that one. Again, best way you could possibly support me, guys, is checking out the WalterPicks app, which I have up on screen right now. I definitely think this one's going to be close between Brock Purdy and Jared Goff. They're back-to-back basically in these rankings. Goff is at 17.5. Purdy's at 17.2. Definitely has been a better fantasy season for Goff so far. Really kind of quietly, honestly. I feel like Purdy started, week 1 really well, but from a fantasy perspective, pretty quiet start from Brock Purdy. 17 points in week 1, 15 points in week 2. He's averaging just 15.8 fantasy points per game, which happens to be the exact amount the Giants are allowing per game. I think I like the matchup overall for Brock Purdy, but only 225 passing yards per game. This game, they really could get crushed. You're really banking on a 3-touchdown game for Purdy for him to have a big game. I like Goff against the Falcons a little bit more than I like Purdy against the Giants. Even though the Giants are a better matchup, I have a feeling that this game might not be close, and that will not be great for Brock Purdy. Trade, giving Russell Wilson Mims 2024 second for Anthony Richardson, also I'm a Justin Fields owner in a PPR league. Yeah, I'm assuming this is Dynasty. And if you're only starting one quarterback, I would not do this. I don't think. Honestly, I don't know. The more I think about it, I really want Anthony Richardson in Dynasty leagues. I don't hate this at all. You're not giving up a first-round pick. I don't think Marvin Mims is going to be a huge thing anytime soon. Hey, Sam, won the championship because of you. I have Saquon and need RB depth. Should I trade him for Devontae and Madison or Gus and Kyron? Kyron Williams is the guy I'd be looking to trade for, but I don't really want Gus at all. I would say if you get something else other than Gus, I think you probably could. If you trade away Saquon, you should be able to get Kyron plus something else. And yeah, Kyron Williams straight up might be better than Saquon Barkley the rest of the season. Guys, the game logs for Kyron Williams. I actually made a trade for Kyron Williams in one of my high stakes leagues this week. I sent Gabe Davis and I think Tutu Atwell, and I got Kyron Williams in return. I felt pretty good overall about that. It was a 14-team league, so depth matters a lot. But man, the game logs for Kyron Williams, they look pretty encouraging. He had a 99% snap share. He ran a route on 68% of Stafford's dropbacks last week, also 14 carries. He saw 10 targets, guys. That's more than receivers see in a given week. So yeah, you got to like Kyron Williams a lot. Cam Akers gets traded. Ronnie Rivers is really not a threat to Kyron Williams. So yeah, I like Kyron Williams a lot. Hey, Sam, back again. Hunt, Ford, or Warren at RB2, and Mike Will or Pittman at flex. Josh, not a Thursday night question. We will hit these types of questions on Sunday mornings. But in general, I'm playing Ford over Hunt like with a lot of ease this week. I think I played Ford over Warren as well. Rest of season, I think, is a little bit more muddy for Ford versus Hunt. But I'd be shocked if Hunt touches the ball more than Ford this soon after joining the team. I know he was on the team last year, so he's got familiarity. And then RB2, and then Mike Williams or Pittman at flex. God, yeah, this one's really close. Super close. I think someone else asked me this earlier today. I forget who it was. But yeah, Mike Williams, I'm not benching against the Vikings. Tony Jones or Zach Moss? Yuck is my answer to that one, but I'm not starting Tony Jones basically ever. I'm not starting Tony Jones. I would definitely start Zach Moss. Gabe Davis, Addison, and Godwin start 2 and bench 1. I have Ayuk out, full PPR. Yeah, Ayuk is out tonight. Ayuk the Bazooka is out tonight. Why start George Kittle? I'll get to that in a second, and I'll also get to why I'm benching Matt Breida. But yeah, to answer this, start sit, which one to bench? Yeah, I kind of think the answer here is Gabe Davis to bench. I play Stafford over Love. All right, so first of all, let me bring up my must start, must bench, and fringe starts on the YouTube live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, guys. YouTube is a better viewing experience than TikTok. Link to the YouTube lives right in the TikTok bio. I mean, your comment can get pulled up on the screen on YouTube, and I can share my screen to game logs as we talk through them. Anyways, why you got to start George Kittle? Let me pull up the game logs again for George Kittle as I talk through it, because really I think like Kittle might have ended up being a fringe start before the Ayuk news came out that Ayuk was not playing. Now that Ayuk is out, I think George Kittle is a top 4 tight end play this week. I know we haven't seen it yet this season, but guys, we don't have to go back too far to see some boom games from George Kittle. Just to end out the season last year, the last 4 games for George Kittle, 25 points, 30 points, 12 points, 19 points. He averaged 13.4 points per game last year. That includes a couple games where he was injured. This year, 5 points in week 1, 6 points in week 2. But now Brandon Ayuk the Bazooka is out. That's one less pretty elite target to not compete with for George Kittle. It's Debo, it's CMC tonight, and it's a good matchup for Kittle against the Giants. The Giants allowed, I think, around 80 yards to Trey McBride and Zach Ertz last week. Guys, George Kittle is miles better than both of those guys combined. So yeah, George Kittle tonight I think is a must start. I'm starting him over Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is also a must start, though. I think they're both top 4, top 5 tight ends. Do you see Chris Godwin getting decent or good production? Yeah, overall, I do have some more faith in Godwin and Evans than I did going into the season. And even after week 1, I do think that Godwin can be good. Debo Samuel tonight. Yeah, you got to lock in Debo with a ton of confidence tonight for a lot of the same reasons as George Kittle. Guys, there's no Brandon Ayuk tonight. George, I wasn't sharing my screen. Sorry to the game logs on the YouTube live. Apologize for that. When I was looking back at this, that would have been useful for you guys. Let me pull this back up on the YouTube live just so you guys can see here. If you see at the bottom, let me go back to 2022. Look how George Kittle ended the season last year. So let's just remind ourselves the type of games that George Kittle can have. He ended the year with 19 points. The week before that, 12. The 2 weeks before that, 30 points and 25 points. To end the season for George Kittle last year, we saw multiple boom weeks from George Kittle last year. We can go back another year. We see even more boom weeks in these game logs. And guys, we just haven't seen one yet. They're coming. They're coming for George Kittle. This is why it is tough to have George Kittle in fantasy. He's going to have bad weeks, but you're going to want him in your lineup when the boom weeks come, and they will come. He will have huge games this season, and they're likely going to come in some of these plus matchups, especially down the stretch. Man, look how the schedule is shaping up for him, weeks 12 through 15, when it really counts in fantasy. So yeah, you got to count. You got to bank on George Kittle having a big game tonight. I'm definitely starting him in all spots as a top 5 option. Darren Waller too, I think, should be started pretty much everywhere. I'd start Kittle over Waller if I had to decide between those two. I don't think many people will have to decide between those two, but really the only 2 tight ends, I think, really the only 3 tight ends you for sure should be starting over Kittle and over Waller. It's Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson. then I'd go Kittle, then I'd go Waller, and then I'd go Goddard. I think that's how I'd rank them. And guys, if you have Kyle Pitts, I'm starting all those guys over Kyle Pitts, but I actually think Kyle Pitts could have a big week this week too. I know that's tough. Why are you sitting Breida with Barkley out? Yeah, so Breida's just not that good. The Giants offensive line, not that good. And also the Giants are 10.5-point underdogs. I don't see the Giants being able to run the ball a lot with Matt Breida tonight. The 49ers guys against running backs this season. The San Francisco 49ers, week 1. They play Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. They allow no touchdowns to those guys, allow 37 total rushing yards and 14 total receiving yards. So Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, both of whom are better than Matt Breida, running behind an offensive line that is better than the offensive line that Matt Breida has. And part of this was the 49ers crushed the Steelers. So they just couldn't run that much. That could very well happen to the Giants tonight as well. And then last week, Kyren Williams, he ran for 52 yards. He also had 10 targets and had 48 receiving yards. Just not the type of usage we're going to see from Matt Breida tonight. I do think Gary Brightwell will mix in. And yeah, the floor is just so low for Matt Breida. The floor is under 5 fantasy points tonight for Matt Breida, even with Saquon out. He's not a replacement for Saquon. They will mix in other guys, and Daniel Jones is going to rush a lot too. I just don't love the floor or ceiling, honestly, for Matt Breida tonight. Is Alvin Kamara an automatic start next week? Yes, Jack Hill. Alvin Kamara is an automatic start next week, and every week that passes, Alvin Kamara and Cooper Kupp, to be honest, but Alvin Kamara especially, is becoming more and more and more valuable as the weeks pass and as he gets closer and closer to returning. And guys, this is the last week. This is it. For all those people that faded Alvin Kamara in drafts, this is the last week that is going to feel good. And then he's going to come back and he's going to be top 3 in the NFL in target share like he has been for the last 6 straight seasons for Alvin Kamara. I mean, crazy stuff. He was an absolute steal in drafts. And it's becoming more and more clear as we see a lot of these running backs really struggle to start the season that were drafted ahead of Alvin Kamara, especially in PPR leagues, man. Alvin Kamara is a top 10 running back rest of the season in PPR starting next week. Why is Waller a must start? Waller was the clear top option for Daniel Jones last week, and he's going to be again tonight. Mike Evans, Pittman Jr., Nico Collins, or Jacoby Myers. Man, I do not want to bench Jacoby Myers at all this week. I don't. He popped off 38% target share, massive game. He was wide receiver 4 in week 1. Concussed, misses week 2. He's going to be back this week. Pittman Jr. is a really good option here too. I'd play both those guys, I think, over Mike Evans and Nico Collins. But man, all good options, honestly. All good options. I think I'd rank these guys probably Jacoby, Pittman, Mike Evans, Nico, but I like all of them. Hey, Sam, should I start Matt Breida, DJ Moore, or Zay Flowers? Also, not a Thursday night question, but James Conner or Brian Robinson. Thank you. Yeah, I think I like B-Rob a little bit more than James Conner. The usage is going to be better for Conner, but I don't feel good about that offense just overall. Okay, and then Breida is not a guy I'm starting. Just generally, I don't want to start Matt Breida. He's what I like to call just a guy. He is not definitely going to command significant touches tonight ahead of Gary Brightwell, who was a 6th-round pick, also just a guy. But Gary Brightwell very well could get all of a sudden the goal line carry, or all of a sudden some of these 3rd-down targets. Gary Brightwell had 2 targets in week 1, so are we sure that Breida is going to get that much more work than Gary Brightwell? Because I'm definitely not, because Breida is just not good enough to deserve certainty of getting all these touches that Saquon usually gets. We know Daniel Jones runs a lot, and we also know that the Giants are going to get crushed tonight. They're 10.5-point underdogs. So yeah, all that combines to, I think you got to bench Matt Breida in almost all situations. Almost all situations. I'm definitely starting DJ Moore over him, and I'd start Zay Flowers over DJ Moore. Sam, I trade Jamar Chase and Pacheco for Diggs. Thoughts? Yeah, I like it. Kylo, I like it. Good way to get out early on Jamar. I still think Jamar can have a good season, but at this point, man, you got to feel better about Diggs than Jamar rest of season. Sam, Addison or Collins? Not a Thursday night question, Brian, but I think I lean Addison this week. I definitely like Addison in the spot against the Chargers. Feeling on Kittle. Yeah, my feeling on Kittle is that he's going to have a boom game tonight. We haven't seen a boom game. We've seen 2 bust games, really. He had 5 points and 6 points in the first 2 games. George Kittle is going to have a massive night. It's only a matter of time until we see a huge George Kittle game, and why not tonight against a bad Giants defense, a defense that I think is bottom 5 in the NFL, and there's no Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka tonight. So yeah, you got to feel good about George Kittle. Start 2, Breida, McKinnon, or Kendre Miller PPR. Chubb and Montgomery injured, LOL. Yeah, man, I had Chubb in a couple leagues. I have David Montgomery in a bunch of leagues. I kind of, fortunately, I guess, have Jahmyr Gibbs in a bunch of leagues. I have Montgomery in also, but not the start you want. But it's also not, it's not something you can't bounce back from. It's hard to bounce back from, especially the Chubb injury. Super tough, but it's hard to bounce back from. But yeah, you can bounce back. You can in fantasy, especially if you got Kyren Williams. Brad, I'll get to that next. But yeah, I would start I think I would start McKinnon too. I think I would start Breida over McKinnon. I honestly think I would start Kendre Miller over Breida, though. And then Brian Fickman, our ratings creator here, is in the YouTube live. I'm starting Kyron over Danny in a Superflex. Is it a mistake? Honestly, Brian, this is a pretty close one in my eyes. It's definitely a pretty scary spot here for Daniel Jones tonight. But Daniel Jones also, he does run a lot, and he's also a quarterback. So you really got to be thinking like generally quarterback over other positions almost every time in the Superflex. Man, Walter likes Kyron a lot, but it's not that close. Man, I think you maybe are making a mistake. You got to be able to find a spot. You got to be able to find a spot for Kyron Williams in the non-Superflex slot, I think. I think there's got to be a spot for him. He's a top 12 running back this week and rest of the season, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Your team's probably really good, honestly, if you're considering this. But yeah, Daniel Jones runs enough. He runs enough that you kind of have to start him in a Superflex league over a guy like Kyron. Wow, look at this. Kyron Williams is averaging more points per game than Daniel Jones. That makes you think a little bit. It makes you think. But yeah, I mean, the Giants are 10.5-point underdogs in this game. We saw this from the Giants in week 1. They got absolutely crushed by the Cowboys. I do worry this game could be a little bit like that for the Giants. So maybe there actually is a little bit riskier to go with Daniel Jones. But he's averaging almost as many carries as Kyron Williams, and then he gets to throw the ball too. Like, yeah, I think I would lean Daniel Jones over Kyron Williams in a Superflex league. Just looking at this, but I do get where this is coming from, Brian. I think you're making a mistake though. Thoughts on Chase? Keep or trade him? Yeah, this is a thing. Like, I just saw a commenter say, I think it was Yarjma say that he was able to offload Jamar Chase and Isaiah Pacheco for Stephon Diggs. Like, if you can do a trade like that, I'm down for that. I think Diggs is way, way, way safer than Chase at this point with Burrow's ongoing calf injury. I do think Burrow will get to 100% down the stretch, though, and Jamar Chase is a guy I'd probably rather have down the stretch than Diggs. But I just don't think it's going to be easy to trade Jamar Chase. But if you can do a trade like that, yeah, I would prefer Diggs over Jamar Chase and Isaiah Pacheco. But yeah, generally, like, I would trade him as long as you can get like first round draft capital for him. Otherwise, I'm not trading Jamar Chase low. I'm definitely not trading Jamar Chase low. I do think he can still have huge, huge, huge games. AJ Brown for Gibbs and Christian Watson. I'm fine with this one. I do think Christian Watson can be really good, but I also really, really, really like Jahmyr Gibbs, especially if this is a PPR league. Fields or Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, I think I'd lean Fields this week. Purdy or Trevor Lawrence? I do like Purdy more than Lawrence. I do like Brock Purdy more than Trevor Lawrence this week. I like Brock Purdy against the Giants overall. Sam, sorry, not Thursday Night Football. I got Ramondre Stevenson and Tank and gave up Javonte, Godwin, and Madison. Yeah, this one's pretty interesting. I'm assuming you mean Tank Dell and not Tank Bigsby here. And yeah, I do like Tank Dell more than Tank Bigsby at this point in the season. And yeah, Ramondre, I think, is the best player in this trade. So, Yarjman, I like it. I do. I think there's another trade I like. Hey, Sam, I always look forward to these live streams. Thank you, Zach. I always look forward to them also. And guys, we are like, 30 minutes out from football on our TV screens. That's always exciting. And we got a fun one tonight, honestly, between the 49ers and the New York Giants. It's a good night, man. I hope all you guys are having a good week, a good night. And it's going to be a fun game. Hopefully it's a surprisingly close game, but probably not. Probably the 49ers are going to crush the Giants. There's a 10.5-point spread, and I actually like the 49ers side of that spread. I trade Eckler for ETN, Kirk Cousins, Hunter Henry. I have Purdy, Kamara, Madison, and Ferguson 0-2. You're trading Eckler for honestly, I mean, Eckler for ETN straight up, not that crazy. It's actually not that crazy. So yeah, I think this trade is fine. I like Kirk Cousins a lot more than Brock Purdy, and I definitely like Hunter Henry more than Jake Ferguson too. So yeah, I think this trade's fine, man. I think it's fine. Eckler's dealing with an injury; he might miss again this week. And if you're 0-2, these are the types of moves you really, Zach. You got to be aggressive. You can't go 0-3. If you have Austin Eckler and you can get something pretty much of same value for him, ETN's looked great. Honestly, the usage has been strong. So, yeah, and he's going to go off, too, against the Texans this week. So, yeah, I'm okay with that trade. Yeah, I won out on Chase after I found out Burrow reactivated his calf. Yeah, definitely concerning, Kyle. Sam, should I start Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, or Daniel Jones? Nestor, you're not going to feel great about it here, but you got to go with Daniel Jones. I think you got to go Danny Dimes over Deshaun Watson, over Justin Fields, even as a 10.5-point underdog against the 49ers. And the reason is I pull this up. It's going to be interesting to look at here, but Daniel Jones, he's running even more than Justin Fields is. I think Fields maybe Fields is averaging more rushing yards per game. Let's pull up these rushing stats. And I mean, just wow. When you look at this and you let this sink in for a second, what we're showing on the YouTube live, again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm also live on YouTube, and I can share my screen on YouTube. It's a better live stream viewing experience. And right now on the screen, I'm showing the comparison between Daniel Jones and Justin Fields, their rushing stats this season. Because Daniel Jones, he's been a better passer this season than Fields. We can look at those stats in a second. But I think in your mind, you immediately think Fields, the better rusher than Daniel Jones. I definitely expected that going into the season. That has not been the case, guys. Daniel Jones leads the entire NFL at the quarterback position in rushing attempts per game, 11 carries per game. And now there's no Saquon tonight. He could easily go over 11 carries tonight. You want that for fantasy. It's huge, huge. Rushing is massive for fantasy. Rushing yards count for 150% more points than passing yards in most leagues. And rushing touchdowns count for 50% more points than passing touchdowns in most leagues. Rushing is overpowered in fantasy football, and that's what you're getting from Daniel Jones. As bad as the Giants might be, that is good for fantasy football. So, yeah, I like Daniel Jones more than Fields. I like Daniel Jones more than Deshaun Watson tonight. The only quarterbacks I'm playing, let me pull this up again. Here's the quarterbacks I'm playing over Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. Obviously, Mahomes, Hurts. I think, honestly, these first 7, I hope, are pretty obvious to most of you. If you're tuning into the stream, you're probably in the top 99th percentile of fantasy managers out there because you found this stream. And so, I trust that these first 7 hopefully are pretty obvious, but I'll run through them anyways. Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Tua, Kirk Cousins, Herbert, Lamar, all absolutely need to be started over Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy tonight. The other 2 that I think really should be started over Purdy and Daniel Jones are Jared Goff and Russell Wilson. And I actually personally would start Purdy over Daniel Jones. That one I think is super, super close. I just like the matchup a lot better for Purdy than Daniel Jones. But the rushing is enough for me to consider Daniel Jones a top 12 quarterback this week. So he's a fringe start. He's not a must start. There's a lot of guys I think you should start over Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. But there's also a lot of spots here that I'm seeing in the comments that, yeah, I would start Daniel Jones over Justin Fields. I don't like the matchup for Fields this week at all either. If I scroll up here, not a good matchup against the Chiefs. Surprisingly, you think the Chiefs, you're playing from behind, trying to catch up to Mahomes. That's not been the case at all this season. The Chiefs defense has been very, very good. The 49ers, obviously, defense has been good too. But yeah, 11.6 points per game to quarterbacks. I mean, that's not a lot, guys. Not a lot of points for quarterbacks being scored against the Chiefs. All right, let's get back to some of these start sits. Why Debo? You definitely got to start Debo. Jones or Purdy? I like Purdy more than Jones. I play Purdy over Jordan Love. LMAO must start CMC. Yeah, we get comments like that every single week in the TikTok live, guys. I put all players playing in the game in these lists on Thursday nights. So yes, there's going to be obvious players in the must start. That's why they're must starts. Hopefully it is obvious, especially CMC. Probably the most obvious one of Thursday nights that I'll even have. Hi, Sam. I'm back again. James Conner or Zay Flowers. Yeah, I'm playing Zay Flowers. Assuming it's a PPR league, I'm playing Zay Flowers. Why Darren Waller? Darren Waller had a massive target share last week. Let me pull this up on the YouTube live with Darren Waller. But yeah, Waller and Kittle, they're both top 6 options tonight. I'll do this comparison again. I think I would play Kittle over Waller, but it is super close. I think they're both top 6 options. But pulling up the game logs quickly from Darren Waller, guys, Darren Waller, week 1, he only played 57% of the snaps. He had just 5 targets for just a 17% target share. Last week, 97% of the snaps for Darren Waller, 23% target share. He had turned, 8 targets into 6 catches for 76 yards, no touchdowns, but 14 points for Darren Waller. That's pretty good for tight ends. He did play the Cardinals, who are historically really, really bad against tight ends. But yeah, Waller's been better than Kittle this fantasy season. I think Kittle's got the better chance, though, to explode tonight than Darren Waller does, which is why I would play Kittle over Waller, even though he's had a slower start to this season. With Brandon Ayuk out, I think that does raise Kittle's ceiling a decent amount. But yeah, I feel overall pretty good about both these guys at tight end. I'm not forcing in Hunter Henry over George Kittle. As much as I like Hunter Henry, how good he's been this season, I'm not starting him over George Kittle. I'm trusting the past seasons we've seen from George Kittle over the first 2 games we've seen from Hunter Henry. Hurts and ETN for Kamara and Ridley half PPR. Yeah, depending on who your other quarterback is, I love this trade if you're getting Kamara and Ridley. Because Kamara in full PPR, I'd like it a lot more, honestly. Full PPR would be much better. But even in half PPR, you're getting, I think, a top 12 running back rest of the season, and then also a top 15, probably top 12 wide receiver rest of the season. I don't love giving up Hurts. I don't love giving up ETN, but yeah, I think this is a fair trade, and I kind of like the Kamara side more. Okay. Tyler Algier or Matt Breida. I've been forced to start one of them since the Nick Chubb injury. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'm in a league where I had to make a pretty brutal trade for Kyron Williams. Honestly, I didn't feel like it was that brutal, but I had to trade for Kyron Williams, and I'm starting Josh Kelly over Matt Breida. I would definitely start Tyler Algier over Matt Breida. I don't want to start Matthew Breida tonight, guys. I really don't. I really, really don't. There is Gary Brightwell, who he's competing with, and that might not sound scary to you, but for a guy like Matt Breida, are we really sure Matt Breida is better than Brightwell? Because I'm really not. I'm not that sure he's better. Let's compare these two guys super quick. If we can even find them, and if they have like any stats to even look at, neither of them have played very much. I actually think Brightwell has more targets than Breida this season. But guys, this is who Breida is competing with. 8.3 points. I honestly think is a pretty optimistic projection for Matt Breida. And man, look at I get that they're playing behind Saquon. They're obviously not going to go for 1 point each tonight. They're both averaging 5.5 yards per game. I mean, look at this. They've been splitting the work pretty much evenly. It was Breida that came in like after Saquon got hurt last week, but obviously super, super small sample sizes here. They played 12% of the snaps. But yeah, you can't trust Breida in a game where we just don't know if he's really going to be the guy in this backfield. Plus, we know Daniel Jones, he leads all quarterbacks in rushing attempts. Maybe that even sees a bump tonight without Saquon, and they're 10.5-point underdogs. I think both these guys can catch passes. If I go to the receiving stats here, man, this doesn't paint a great picture for Matt Breida. He is averaging less receptions than Brightwell, who had 2 catches in week 1. Matt Breida has negative receiving yards this season. That's not a good sign for Matt Breida. So yeah, overall, yeah, man, I'm not starting Matt Breida. I think that nail in the coffin. Don't start Matt Breida. Don't start Gary Brightwell. Really, the only Giants player you can start with a lot of confidence tonight is Darren Waller. Then it's Daniel Jones and nobody else. Like, there's going to be probably one receiver that has a random good game. Wan'Dale Robinson, excited to see him back tonight, see how much he plays. But yeah, generally don't play any of the other Giants players. And then for the 49ers, you got to start Debo, you got to start Kittle, and the 49ers defense is definitely in a great spot. Jake Moody must start. Yeah, I think Moody is a good start tonight too. Sam the Man, Zay Jones, or Josh Reynolds. Connie, how we doing, man? Hope you're having a good week. Zay Jones versus Josh Reynolds is definitely a close one and not a Thursday night one. So I might have a different answer for you on Sunday morning when I analyze these games a little bit closer for Sunday. Josh Reynolds is coming off a huge game, but I kind of feel like the answer here is Zay Jones still. Should I start Algier or who else? Yeah, I'm starting Algier over Matt Breida for sure. Josh Kelly versus DeAndre Swift. If Austin Eckler does not play, I'm playing Josh Kelly over DeAndre Swift, even though DeAndre Swift's coming off a legacy game, because I think Kenneth Gainwell's going to be back this week. And Kenneth Gainwell dominated the touches in the one game we've seen with Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift. I do think DeAndre Swift has earned more of a role, but it's not going to be a workhorse role for Swift in games where Gainwell's playing. Traded Goddard and Drake London for Breece Hall. Chubb was my running back, and Stevenson's my other RB. Good trade. Yeah, Nigel, I'm cool with this trade. I think it is a good trade. It depends what your tight end situation is behind Goddard too, a little bit. But I think this is a good trade. I like trading for Breece Hall right now. And I have a team with Nick Chubb. I was sending messages to the team that had Breece Hall for sure, because there are teams with Breece Hall out there right now that are not confident about starting Breece Hall. Understandably, Breece Hall had 4 carries last week. But also, I remain very confident Breece Hall is clearly the best running back on the Jets. In that down the stretch, if you have Hunter Henry, this is a great trade. Now, great work offloading a position of strength. This is always what you want to do when trading. Look at the strengths of your team, the strength of your depth, trade away that depth, and get what you need in your starting line. I think it's a good movement. Good move. I really like that trade. And yeah, I was trying to offload Gabe Davis and some meaningless running back and Tutu Atwell for Breece Hall. Wasn't able to get that one done, unsurprisingly. Somehow I was able to get that done for Kyron Williams, which I felt good about. But yeah, you had to make moves if you had Nick Chubb. Really hope Nick Chubb comes back, man. Weatherman Sam, tell me how the weather's looking in my home state. You'd start Purdy, Danny Dimes over T-Law. Yes, I would. I would start Purdy, then Danny Dimes, then T-Law. That's the way I would rank those 3 guys. And glad you brought up Weatherman Sam, because I do have a Weatherman Sam update prepared for you. Weatherman Sam, 15-mile-an-hour winds tonight. Guys, it should not impact the game. I swear, I'm already picturing it on the TV screen. They're showing the flag. There's wind impacting the game. No, guys, it's really not going to impact the game. We've done research on this. Wind over 25 miles an hour. That's where we get concerned. Otherwise, there's no rain, no precipitation tonight. It's a nice 70-degree night in California. 49ers are at home. This is not a dome game. There's going to be a little bit of wind, but it is not going to impact the game no matter what the guy on the TV tells you. 15-mile-an-hour winds or something. It's something that football players can play through. Quarterbacks can play through. They can throw through. Not a huge deal. So, yeah, that's the weather, man. Sam, update of the Thursday night live stream. I think this is really the only first real weather to report on the Thursday night games. A lot of dome games, I feel like, on Thursday nights, too. Definitely a decent amount of rain so far this season. But overall, weather has not had a huge impact this season, and it usually doesn't really until we get to some of the colder months. All right, do I start Javonte or Jerome? Oh, man, yeah, I think I'd probably lean Javonte, but it's close. Also, not a Thursday night question. All right, Debo or Devontae Smith? This is a Thursday night question, and I do have Debo in my must-start category tonight because there's no Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka tonight. But, yeah, you got to start Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is in the category, or he's really close. I'd say more so than Debo Samuel of, you got to start Devontae Smith every week. Guys, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, they're really not that much different from one another. For fantasy purposes, both guys need to be started. In a pinch, Tony Jones or Dalvin Cook, I'm not starting Tony Jones. I refuse to do it. Could I snag Kamara for Puka as of right now? Wow, this is a really, really interesting one. I actually want to do this one before we wrap up this live stream in the trade analyzer because I'm interested to see what the trade analyzer says about this one. I don't hate this at all. Honestly, the more I think about this, and I know I've already ranted about Kamara a little bit tonight, I would trade Puka for Kamara straight up. If I was in that situation, I would take the Kamara side and I would run for the hills. Especially, there's just so many teams out there, so many fantasy teams struggling at running back with the injuries happening, with some of the early picks struggling. And yeah, wow, it's not even close. It's not even close. Especially if this is like a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex type of league. If it's a PPR league, I think I like Kamara even more. And like the thing you just have to understand with Puka, and man, guys, these numbers from Puka, mind-boggling, record-breaking numbers. He has by far the most targets in the NFL. Puka Nacua has 11 more targets than Justin Jefferson, who has the second most targets in the NFL. Ridiculous numbers here from Puka Nacua. I mean, by far, shattering anyone's expectations. And it's not going to stop, I don't think, this week or next week. But then in week 5 or maybe week 6, Cooper Kupp's going to return. And I still think Puka Nacua is going to be great. But guys, he's not getting 40% target shares when Cooper Kupp is playing. He's just not. The numbers don't work out that way. Cooper Kupp has always commanded significant targets. So yeah, I think that I'm cool with it. I like trading Puka for Kamara. And I think it's a relatively fair trade, especially if someone needs a receiver in the short term. Do I start Brock Purdy or Baker Mayfield? Yeah, I'm starting Brock over Baker. Who else should I consider getting with B-Rob and Tyler Algier? Yeah, Kyron Williams, I think, is the running back to go try to get if you can. CMC or Pollard/Andrews. Yeah, I like Pollard/Andrews. I would take Pollard and Andrews for CMC. I would take the Pollard-Andrews side. I know CMC's great. Pollard's the number 2 running back in fantasy in my eyes, right after CMC. He's been great. Tony Pollard leads all running backs in expected fantasy points. 0-2 running backs are Bijan, Gibbs, James Cook, Hall. Wide receivers are Olave, Judy, Watson, Dotson. Oh, man. Should I trade James Cook for Puka? Yeah, this side of the conversation, moving on to a different trade with Puka. Yeah, I'd take the Puka side here. You're not going to start James Cook. Long term, you're not starting James Cook on this team, assuming you start 2 or 3 running backs each week. You're not starting him over Bijan ever. I don't think you're in a PPR league, especially, you're ever starting him over Gibbs. And then I think down the stretch, there's almost no chance you're starting him over Breece Hall. Olave's locked in. Judy should be kind of locked in. Hopefully Watson ends up being good. Dotson's super sketchy. Puka's an automatic wide receiver starter, though, out of the gates here. So I'm okay with this. And Njoku or Laporta. No need to spam. Jeb Fields. We don't need to spam. But I do think both these guys are startable this week. I like Laporta a little bit more. Okay. Let's get to some final start-sit questions. Ryan, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that, guys. Seriously, if everyone takes just 2 seconds on the YouTube Live, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, smash the follow button. CMC going to disappoint tonight. I think that he probably won't. But if he does, it's going to be because this game's not close and Elijah Mitchell smashes his player prop line of 29.5 rushing yards. That's the free player prop of the night. Guys, if you haven't played the Pick'em game on Sleeper yet, you got to play. And if you use code Walter, you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100 if you're depositing for the first time on Sleeper. If you're watching live on YouTube, link is right in the YouTube description for that. Also, you don't even need the link, though. Just go to Sleeper, deposit for the first time, use code Walter, take Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rushing yards. Absolutely love this one. I think they also have the Kittle discount tonight on his receiving line. I don't hate that either. I like Mitchell to score a touchdown tonight too. I think that is a pretty good odds. Those are my favorite props of the night. But yeah, the free official prop of this live stream is Elijah Mitchell over 29.5 rushing yards. We are 3-1 on the free player props. So good start to the season on the free prop picks on the lives. If you guys are looking for more player props too, you guys, you got to go to the WalterPicks app. Link is in the TikTok bio. Link's in the YouTube description. By far the best place to make start sit decisions, analyze trades, and to do player prop research is the WalterPicks app. Free to download, free to try in the iOS and Android app store. And the link for that is in my TikTok bio and the YouTube description. Sam, have a great night. See you Sunday. Enjoy the game. You too, Kylo. Guys, time is the most valuable thing we have. Thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight. I will be back live, as always, Sunday morning to grind through the start sit decisions, to talk through the whole Sunday slate. It was a really fun one last week. It's going to be a really fun one this week, so make sure you don't miss that on YouTube and TikTok. Guys, have a fantastic night. I will see you Sunday. Good luck, everybody.